Hey, I'm Mari. Thank you for joining me today for a little chat with the Bittersweet Betty podcast. My name's Mari. You can find me on Instagram as Bittersweet Betty NC and Ravelry as Bittersweet Betty. I don't like to do a ton of intro stuff, so I'm just going to launch right into it. Thanks for being here today. This is just my chance to talk about what I've been working on. I love to knit. And, I'm knitting right now, so I don't feel awkward on camera. And once I probably get started, I will put that down. But it's been a couple weeks since I did one of these. I was out of town on vacation for a week, and then life, you know how it goes. So I've just got a couple things to show today, but they've been really fun projects, and I've got some other experiences to talk about as well. So we'll start off with finished objects. So you may notice I am wearing a finished object that I talked about probably in maybe my first one. This is the Ashburn Shawl by Melanie Berg I'm wearing, and this was my Grello masterpiece that I mentioned. So you can see it's a 3-color shawl. It's kind of like a shallow asymmetrical triangle shawl, and so the bottom yarn is Queen Bee, I think, by Vine Yarns. This is Old Gold by Miss Babs, and this higher one is I think Bronze by Black Sheep Dye Works. So it ended up being really long, so I actually ended up wrapping around twice, which is more than I normally do with my scarves, but it's come out really well. I'm really happy with it. I love the progression and the breakup of the solid color in between the darker gray and the lighter gray. Hilariously, my husband walked out of the house today, and I was like, "Are you wearing my shawl?" And he was like, maybe. So I guess that's a good sign that it's fashionable enough that my husband doesn't mind wearing it out in public. He's a good yarn husband, by the way. He's always very appreciative and knit worthy of anything that he gets. So he gets things because he's good at it. He's good at taking care of them and appreciating them. So I'll take it off and kind of just show it. You can see there's no chance this is all going to fit in the frame. And as you can tell, it's kind of like a production to put it on or take it off. And but so it's got this. The first tail is the bronze. See, like no chance. I have no idea how long this is. I haven't measured it. But so the first tail is the bronze. It's really long and skinny. And then you get into this really cool textured part. I'm going to try and get it closer, so you can kind of see sort of a slip stitch pattern that I really liked. I like how it came out. I haven't done a lot of stitches with texture. I feel like since I've gotten back into knitting, a lot of it has just been garter stitch, which is great. And I have much more appreciation for garter than I used to. And I love how stretchy it is and how warm and comfy it is. But it's just nice to have some texture in to kind of change that up, especially with a solid color. So it's got a picot bind off, and then this part of the yarn is kind of a sparkle base, which I like the sparkle bases, and I have bought a couple, but I'm not a super sparkle person in real life. So I have had a hard time figuring out how to implement them, and so I feel like this was a good one because it's a very subtle kind of, brings that metallic tint to it. So this has been great. This is, I think I finished one shawl, and then it kicks the previous one I made out of my rotation for a little while. So I've been wearing this a lot, but I'm really happy with the color combination. It really goes with a lot of stuff. I wear a little purple and teals and burgundies, and it kind of just seems to go with everything. So I really, really love it and highly recommend the colorway, especially the Old Gold, for being kind of a unexpected neutral that goes with everything. So it's been nice having that. Of course, after I finished it, I was in Florida for a week, so it's not like I really needed it there. So it kind of just hops around my house, and I find it every now and then and throw it back on. So that's been really fun to have that done. It was nice to get a shawl off the needles. Like I mentioned in my previous podcast, I've had a couple. I'm really dying to put some more on, but I'm trying to finish some projects first. So I've been very good at kind of sticking to my resolve of not starting anything new until I get through a couple other things. I don't know when that getting through ends, but for right now I'm doing good at it. So we'll keep going. The other thing that I have finished since my last podcast is a hat that I knit for my dad. So I don't have anything to show you because it's already been gifted, but I'll try and put a photo up here. I knit him the Barnard hat. So this is the pattern. So it's basically a pretty simple beanie, again, texture, which is great for those solid colors like I have. My husband's just getting home, so he may come and interrupt me in a minute. So it's kind of like a broken rib that has little pearl bumps kind of alternating throughout it. I thought it looked really good in the color that I picked for him. I think he liked it. It was close enough to Mopar blue for him. So he's got a nice shockingly blue hat to take back up to Michigan with him. It was fun to knit. I took it with me when we went to Florida and thought I would get so much done on it, and I don't think I even touched it once. So as soon as I got back, I really hauled ass on it so I could get it done while he was down here watching our dogs while we were on vacation. So I wanted to make sure he had it to take home with him. So I would totally recommend this hat. I think it's a really good hat pattern for a man. Honestly, it's unisex, I would say, but if you're looking for something that's some texture, that is interesting to knit, but isn't, if you've got a fussy male in your life that doesn't want to knit something super, but you need something a little bit more interesting than that, I would highly recommend Barnard Hat again. So, yeah, I don't have a lot to say about them. I don't know. I liked them. I like knitting them. I'm kind of glad it's done. I've got a couple other things to knit for other people that I'm trying to remember that I need to focus on. But I really just want to knit on stuff for myself right now. So I'm trying to, temper them and alternate between stuff for me and stuff for other folks. So one of the things I mentioned, we went to Florida. My husband and I took some friends of ours to Disney World for the first time. If you don't know me in real life, my family / my mom is like super into Disney, and so we are Disney Vacation Club members. And my family's gone since I was a kid. Not tons and tons until like later in life. But when my husband and I met, and he went on his first Disney trip in like a year after we were married. And he was just not a huge fan. He was like, not really my thing. It was fun. So this was like actually our first trip going on vacation with just friends. And these are friends that have an older daughter. So it was an adults only trip. And we had a blast. Like, we had so much fun. And I pretty much played tour guide because I'm the one that knows the most. Our friends had never been to Disney World, and my husband has been a couple times now, but still doesn't like know, what everything's called and things like that. So let's see if he's going to come in and interrupt me. So we went for 5 days and stayed on Disney property, and just had a really good time. We ate at a lot of really great places, and had a lot of good things to drink. So I definitely recommend family, no offense, Mom and Dad, family-free friend trips for adults. We had a great time, and it was probably one of the best vacations we've had in a while. So I was just really glad to have that. The funny thing is, I went on a trip to Disney with my mom back in September, and it was the first time I'd ever taken my knitting with me. And I was a little nervous to take it in because you never know, like, they check bags and stuff now, so it's hard to say if they're going to be like, what is this, we're going to confiscate it or whatever. So I just took a hat. I took a really simple, just like a sock head hat, and just a beanie that was like, rib brim and knit around, and took it with me everywhere. And I finished a hat in the like 2 weeks we were there, so that's one of my husband's hats now. But it was really fun. Like, I enjoyed knitting at Disney. I enjoyed kind of doing it and like having some conversations with people about it. It'd catch a lot of people looking at me, but one of the things that's so hard about going on vacation to a place like Disney where you're waiting in line is like, you're standing there, and like, if you're standing by yourself, obviously there's nothing to do, and like, you look around and everyone's on their phones, and I don't know, like, it's not very fun and entertaining for me. So it was fun to have something and feel like, cool, I don't mind waiting in line for 20 minutes because I've got this thing to work on. And then it was also funny, like, I went through a security line, and 2 days in a row I had the same guy, and he was like, did you come through here yesterday? And I was like, yeah. He's like, I recognized your knitting. And I was like, I know, thanks. So and for anybody, if you're thinking about taking knitting to Disney, like, I had no problems. Like, no one really gave it a second glance. So no issues for me, and no one really said anything other than nice things. So if you're ever thinking about that, I recommend it. So I did think about taking it with me, or well, I took 2 hats with me when we went to Disney, you know, because again, I wanted to get my dad's hat done before he went back up to Michigan. And I took another hat that I started the last time I was there, and I did not knit at all the entire trip, other than the plane trip there. I didn't knit at all while I was there. So I think that's a good testament to you know, the friends that we went with, and how good of a time that we had. And, you know, we were just walking and eating, and, you know, even I'm a good planner. I'm going to say that. I'm a good Disney planner. So if you have questions, I'm always happy to answer Disney questions. You know, so we didn't have to wait in a ton of lines, but even when we did, like, you know, we really enjoyed getting to talk with one another. And, so I didn't get much knitting done. So that's not to say I haven't done much knitting since I saw you last. And when I show you what I've been working on, it kind of blows my mind even that, like, I'm where I'm at with it. Given that I basically took a week off from knitting because I didn't take it with me. I knew I wasn't going to work on it, so I just left it here. So the main thing that I've been working on in terms of whips has been my Chuck sweater. So I think I showed this last time. I started it 2 days before New Year's, I believe. And we left on our vacation like January 13th, and we're going till the 18th. So that time was not knitting. So the last time you saw this, I don't know if you can tell, I blocked it. So this line right here is where it's kind of doing that bend in the middle. That's what I had done before. So since then, I have knit the front. The way you knit it is you knit this part down to where that wrinkle is. Then you use the top of the sleeves, pick up, and then you knit downward. And then once you get to where the arms come together, you knit in the round. So this is a cropped sweater. I think you can probably see all of it now. So this is an Andy Satterland pattern that came out, I think maybe like 2011. And I've had it in my queue for a really long time, but I mean, I'm not going to wear like a crop sweater usually, not like with jeans or anything. So I liked it, but I never really thought anything of it. But the thing is, I wear a lot of fit and flare dresses for work. And I usually buy sleeveless ones because I don't like having a bunch of junk under my arms. So I end up having, you know, I wear cardigans with them to kind of make them all weather. So when I was, you know, kind of trying to think of what to do with this yarn, because if you remember, this is the yarn where I bought like a lot, but not enough to make like a full-size sweater. So the pattern, I think, in my size calls for like 1,100 yards. So I bought another skein, and I actually had to modify this a decent bit because it goes to a size 53-inch bust. I'm a size 54. This pattern is fine, I think, for negative ease. But my gauge was also a little bit off. Like my row gauge was way off. So she must have enormous rows or something because I could not come close to touching her row gauge. But so I knew it was probably gonna be a little snugger even. I think I would have shaved off 2 inches. So I basically added a couple stitches here and there. Like I added, I think, 1 stitch here. I'm trying to think. I have notes on all of it. So if you're interested, I can share some of mine with you, but it's mostly just a bunch of notes that I wrote up. And so like I basically added some width here. And in the back, I think I added a little bit here, and then I added more on the sides of this. So nothing's changed in here. It's just all kind of on the sides. And then adding a little, I think I ended up adding, it's affected other places I had to add things. So I'm really happy with it. I think I'm going to go back and add some more ribbing on the bottom. I think maybe like 5 or 10 more rows because I kind of want it to be deep. So basically where it hits me is like right here. That's where all the ribbing is. And so it's a little bit, it's snug, like and that's fine. That's what I wanted. But it'll go really well with a lot of my dresses, and so that'll be a way to not have to wear a cardigan. And I've made it so I think she has it at 3/4 length sleeves, so I've made full length sleeves. I had to do some modifications to the shoulders, like a pickup you pick up a knit and then do like a short row sleeve cap. So I ended up having to add like maybe 6 rows or something like that. So nothing crazy, but it's just one of those things like when you have to adapt a pattern, it always seems like, oh, I'll just add a couple of things here. And then, you know, knowing that my row gauge was off, I also, you know, like I added the pattern only has like 1 cross here and like 1 cross here. And then like, so I added some extra crosses to add a couple extra rows. If I was doing it again, I think I might do 3 repeats with less of the crosses. If I wanted the cable pattern to go more under my bust. But, yeah, this is one of the first like size inclusive patterns that I probably looked at back when I was a relatively new knitter. And thank you to Andy Sunderland for having relatively inclusive sizing. There's we can talk about in a minute some of the size inclusive stuff, but I'm really excited about this, and I could see making more if I end up wearing it a lot, which I think I will. Like, the only problem is this is a worsted weight sweater. It's knit out of shepherd's wool in roasted pumpkin, I think. I really like the yarn. It is a worsted weight for me. I live in North Carolina. There's not a lot of time to wear long sleeved heavy sweaters because of how warm it is down here. So it'll be good, and it goes with everything. Again, I'm all about, you know, a certain color palette and making things that go with everything. So I think it will get a lot of wear, and all I've got left is I'm on my 2nd sleeve right now. So I'm really hoping to get this done midweek, if not before. Again, I got to go back and add a little bit of length to the bottom before I can block it, but yeah, I'm just really pleased with it, and I think it's a good pattern. Like if you're into crop sweaters, or it's not like a positive ease one like the nurtured sweater. It's definitely like it's gonna hug you right here. And I know a lot of people had length issues, so if you tackle it, just be aware. Like, I don't think anybody I think a lot of people have to make up some additional rows to get it to be the right length for them. Like on the pattern designer, it's like the pattern comes down to like here versus like right here. So it is what it is. Every knitter is different. But yeah, I'm really excited about it and happy to have it soon. And it's been a fun project, especially for the beginning of the year, because I've just been able to knock it out so quick. I have been really monogamous with it pretty much, so that helps certainly. Like I've got a bunch of other sweaters that I'm like, oh, you're just sitting there, but I haven't. I've been letting them sit so I can kind of get this one done. And so this will be my first sweater of 2019. So that's super exciting. And I thought I would have another work in progress to show you, but really it's just the yarn. So let me see if I can grab it. So in my last podcast, I think I said how my dad's the only one that I knit black for. And it's a joke in my family. Apparently it's maybe only a joke to me. So I think I hurt my mom's feelings. Sorry, Mom. So my mom has recently had some surgery on her neck, and she's a little subconscious about the scar she's got. So she asked me if I would think about doing a cowl for him. I was like, of course. Like, I'd be more than happy to. And I had already gone out and bought her some black yarn because I wanted to make something as an apology. So I went and bought, well, I went and bought one because I was originally going to make a hat, but I went and bought 3 skeins of this Wool in the Gang yarn. I don't know if you can tell, it's like a really fuzzy, it's like kind of a bulky, I think it's meant to be bulky, but it's very light. So I think it's going to knit up probably between a bulky and a worsted gauge. It's kind of almost like that brushed Surrey, I think. It's got some, like, I wouldn't even call it halo. It's just like fuzz. I don't know. It's got kind of like a chain play, I think. Excuse me, I'm having some issues. So it is the space black colorway, and each ball is about 142 yards. It looks like it's 70% baby alpaca, 7% merino, and 23% nylon. So I'm gonna work on a cowl for her. I haven't picked a pattern yet. I've been thinking about a couple that Espace Tricot has on their has on Ravelry that are kind of like tall, like they have one that like has a split here and no split over here, so it kind of sits on your shoulder. I want something that's going to give it some height so that she can kind of have it almost like a, not a turtleneck because it won't be tight, but you know, just something that'll kind of stand up on its own. So if she kind of wants to pull it up a little bit, she can. So that will be next on my, it's on deck after my sweater's done. So I still don't like knitting black, but I will do it for my mom. So the caveat to last podcast is I will only knit black for my parents. Hopefully no one else is going to be upset by that, but I don't think anyone else cares. So you guys are special. You're the only ones that get knit black things. I hope I didn't make anyone else cry this time. Oh, I'm sorry. So yeah, so that's what's next, and hopefully that'll be a relatively quick project, so it'll work up quickly. So yeah, I'm like 20 minutes in probably, and when I say 20 minutes, I mean I'm gonna cut the first 5 minutes of me sitting here staring at the camera trying to get ready. So not a lot of knitting content, obviously, because working on sweater, but I did want to show you guys a couple different things that I've gotten. Some are knitting related, some are not. Well, most are knitting related. So one of the fun things, so I've gotten some fun knitting adjacent things lately. Oh, of course I've lost them now. Okay, sorry. So when we were at Disney, if you've ever been before, you know that like Epcot has all the countries and everything. So it was our first time taking our friends through, and we went to the China Pavilion. And like China and Japan are awesome pavilions because they've got these like enormous department stores, so you can see like all kinds of wacky things. Like my girlfriend she found this box and a picture of a cat on it, and the box said, "Why am I sushi?" And so she brought it over, and we were all like, what does that mean? Why am I sushi? Like, are they asking it like, why am I sushi? Why am I sushi? So she bought it, and it's basically a keychain that has a cat on a bed of rice, like a piece of sashimi, I guess, whatever it is. So she bought that, and she was like, this is amazing. So she was really excited about that. So not in that particular pavilion, but in the China Pavilion, we were walking, and they had stickers. And so I got these. Can you see? So it's just little puffy stickers that are all like alpaca and sheep. And it was just fun. Like, I have no idea what to do with them, but I liked them, and I was like, I have to get those. So and they're cheap, whatever. So I'm really excited for my alpaca and sheep stickers. So I feel like I can't do anything with them until I figure out the perfect thing, because I don't want to waste them. But life, you know, like you can't just like not use things. So we'll see. I'll give you guys an update if I figure out something to do with them. So that was a fun little souvenir. Obviously they don't sell yarn or knitting things in Disney, so that was like my closest knitting thing. I also wanted to show a couple books that I've got for Christmas that I haven't really looked at much so far. So if you have read them, let me know what you think. These are, when I ask for books, I'm so happy to have them, but I'm also kind of like, I don't know that I always read them. Like I got the Knitting Comfortably book last year for Christmas, and like I'll peek at it a little bit now and then, but I'm just not good at sitting down with like physical books anymore, especially like craft related ones. Like I don't work out of those. I usually work off Pattern from Ravelry. So anyways, so one of the first ones that I got from my father-in-law I asked for Christmas is the Beginner's Guide to Writing Knitting Patterns. And I asked for this not because I'm necessarily planning to start designing or anything, but because I'm so interested. And one of the things I would really like to learn more about is like grading, particularly for sweaters, because I'm, like I think I said in my first podcast, I'm that person. I've been very polite about it now, but there's been some things going on Instagram and the knitting and sewing communities that have kind of empowered me to be less polite about it. Well, not impolite, but like more vocal, let's say that. there's been a call basically for people to be more size inclusive, and that has stemmed off of some really serious conversations about racism in the knitting community and the experience of people of color, and raising awareness that our happy, fun knitting community is not nearly as happy and fun for some people as it is for others. So that has really opened my eyes, and I've been intent on trying to learn more and listen. And so I don't necessarily have anything wise or wonderful to say about it, because God knows I'm not, like, it's not about me, and I'd rather listen so that eventually I can speak up if I need to. But that has started some really amazing conversations, which I'm very grateful for and here for, and want to support in any way I possibly can. If you are interested in it, those of you that are not into knitting probably don't care, but like if you are knitting and you're on Instagram and you haven't seen it already, I would say check out a color mustard, Sukrita, su.krita. They've got a lot of information about it. So all of that has been happening, and I am, to be clear, in no way equating size inclusivity is being the same or more important, or honestly even on the same plane as racism that people of color have experienced in the knitting and sewing community. But it does intersect. Obviously, there's a lot of people of color that are plus size and struggle with that in addition to being people of color. So I'm glad that it has come up as an underrepresented thing. I do not want to suggest that it is taking the place of those, or that it's more important or needs to take center stage. Absolutely not. But since this is my podcast, and I'm, as a fat woman, have my own little marginalized group of people, that struggle with things, it's come up. And so we're going to talk about it a little bit. So obviously it's a challenge when you are beyond a size, 48. I say 48 is probably the bare minimum for straight sizes, is at the high end. I've mentioned several times, and I'll probably always keep mentioning my measurements, but I'm a size 54 bust, which means I've been knitting a lot of size 53, and that's often the highest size. Some designers have been really great about going up to 60. I'm sure, I don't know what the equivalent is for like a size 32, but in ready-to-wear plus size clothes, I think 32 is like the most extended size you can generally get. And even that's difficult to find. Like most of your plus size retailers like Lane Bryant and Avenue, well, Lane Bryant doesn't go up to a 32. I think they go up to a 28. But anyways, so I'm not sure exactly what to argue for when I say it. I just know that like I'm on the tail end of the already inclusive stuff. And so I hope that at some point these designers will start going even further. There have been some really great people kind of calling out designers and brands, saying, you need to be more inclusive. You need to show people of size. You need to show, you need to make fat friends. You do make fat friends. I have volunteered with Downtown Knits, which is one of my local yarn stores, and basically said, if you guys have ever thought about doing like a measurement taking session or something like that will help people that are uncomfortable or don't know how to take their own measurements, or maybe need some guidance, if they need to see someone that's a bigger size there, so that it's just like you're not the only fat lady there, I was like, I'll be there. Like, I will do it. I'm happy to help, whatever. So that's some place that I can very safely step into and be an advocate and say, like, if you don't want to be the one, I will be the one. Because, like, I've been fat my whole life, and I'm never going to be skinny. It's not my body shape, and it's not very likely to happen. So, one, I know I need to learn how to deal with patterns. But I also want to be better at calling people out and basically saying, hey, I get that you're not in this size range, but you have to understand that the average American woman is a size 14 to 18. And while your patterns may cover them, that doesn't, just because they're the average, that doesn't mean there's not a shit ton of us out here on this other end. So, and the funniest thing to me in my day job, I do economic development, and about making money and jobs and all that. And it's like, you do not know how much money you're leaving on the table as a designer if you won't design for people. And I think a lot of it, people more eloquent than I have talked about it, but, you know, essentially one of the reasons people leave that money on the table and won't design for fat people is fat phobia. And all I have to say to that is fuck fat phobia. Like, I don't care. Like, I don't care if you're uncomfortable with it. You need to get the fuck over yourself. So, be inclusive, be an awesome person, and design for everybody. You know, like, learn how to do that and do it well. Do not ever compare designing plus size clothing to designing for a gorilla, an elephant, a hippo, a whale, anything that involves an animal metaphor. Don't fucking do it. Just know better. Just know better. I'm only saying that because it has been brought to my attention that someone did that. So, you know, thank you again to everybody who is inclusively designing, and thank you for all the great patterns. There's a lot of people I could call out for, you know, and I will try. Like, I'm more committed now to basically going on and politely saying to designers when they launch new designs, hey, have you thought about designing this for X, Y, Z, you know, shapes and sizes? Because I think part of it is just like people don't hear, you know, no one is saying to them, everyone's just saying it's great, we're so happy with it, you know, and those of us that have always had to learn how to adapt, you know, are just going to continue to do that. And if we don't speak up, they don't know that, you know, they're missing a market, that they're hurting people, you know, basically. I mean, it sucks. Like, it sucks to find an awesome pattern and then be like, oh, it's for 50, you know, 48. That's like a 6-inch difference. And like, not that I couldn't adapt it, but it's not really what I want to spend my time doing, especially if I'm paying you for a pattern that I then have to hack. So you guys have listened to me rant for that for a while. It's totally, to me, it's a legitimate argument. Listen to fat people, listen to people of color, take what they're saying and think on it. Don't react defensively, just think on it, you know. You don't want to show your rear end, you know, by coming up with all your reasons why you can't or don't. Just take some time and evaluate yourself, you know. Decide if it's something that is relevant and meaningful. Because if you care about people, it is. Because we're all people. So, I'm not going to edit this. I've decided. So, I hope that whoever's watching is okay with everything I said. And if not, you're not required to watch this podcast. So, I don't want any comments. If constructive criticism, fine. Or, thoughtful discussion is cautiously encouraged. I'm not very good at answering comments, so if you leave shitty comments, I probably won't answer them. But if you hate what I'm saying, or you are challenged by me saying, you know, screw you for being fat phobic, just you are allowed to exit the ride now. Take your exit and go. So, okay, back on to like nicer things. So pattern writing. At some point, if anyone out there was watching this and knows how to grade and is willing to share resources or teach or whatever, please message me. That would be awesome. I would love to learn more about that. Again, not because I'm necessarily trying to write patterns, but just because I think it would be interesting. The other book that I got for Christmas was, this Ultimate Sweater book by Amy Herzog. Amy does a lot of really great books about how to fit and flatter for your shape. And she has an awesome system. I'm blanking on the name of it right now, but if you take your measurements, basically they'll adapt their patterns and spit out one that's custom made for your measurements, which I think is awesome. The only thing that's not awesome is that I think almost all of her patterns are done in pieces, which, especially for someone that is adapting stuff, knitting in pieces sucks, because what it means is that you have to knit all these pieces and hope and pray that they're gonna work and fit, and who knows, like, versus a top-down sweater that like I can try on as I go. So if I need to make any adjustments, I can. So I'm a little bummed because I was hoping that there would be more to this, such that, you know, if you can adapt it. The other thing is that I think there's only like, it's like fingering sport and worsted, which I find a little odd since there's so much focus on DK, but right now in the marketplace, but I guess DK and worsted kind of can be used interchangeably somewhat. So I have to look at this more, I guess, ultimately, and decide. I get that there are reasons why it's sometimes better to knit in pieces rather than in the round and top down. But for my lifestyle and making sure that my projects work, it's unlikely I'm going to be able to do anything with this for any time soon, which is a bummer. But I'm sure it'll still be a good resource, and in the long run, hopefully it'll help me learn some things. What else have I gotten recently? So I've been really good lately about not buying yarn, I want to say. I feel like I've only... I don't know if this is weird to say. I only bought yarn because I bought for my mom for her cowl. But the other thing that I bought was some Holst garn, and the only reason I'm telling you that is because I think the way it came is hilarious. I mean, I knew it was coming this way, but so Holst garn, if you're not aware, is a oh, I'm gonna forget. It's a European company, and so they sell pretty crunchy, like natural wool products, and it's really reasonably priced and everything. People use it a lot for color work, and so I know at some point I really need to knit like a navy sweater or cardigan or something, and so I was looking on their website, and it's in English, and they'll sell it in ships to the US, but it's funny because then all your notices are like in Danish, maybe. So I bought these. They came while I was on vacation, and when I got home, my dad was like, "There's a package for you. It feels like toilet paper. I don't really know what it is." And I was like, "Oh," and then he tossed it to me, and I was like, "It's yarn." So this is my first time ever buying yarn on a cone. So on Garn's website, you can either buy 50-gram balls, or you can buy a 500-gram cone. So each of these is 500 grams. The yarn is sort of like equivalent to a fingering weight, and it's woolen spun, which means that when you wash it, it'll fluff up, and it's supposed to be very warm because it captures a lot of air. And so this is supposed to be really good for you can knit at a fingering gauge with one strand, or you can hold two together and knit at a, I hope, worsted gauge, DK or worsted. So that's one of the reasons why I have 1,000 grams of this, because I'm wanting to knit a sweater. And honestly, for me, it was super affordable. Like, I think I paid with shipping. This was like $50, something like around there. It wasn't, I think the colorway was on sale. This is the vintage heather colorway, something like that. I think it's gorgeous. So it's kind of this like heathery navy blue, like almost, it's not, I don't know if it's denim, but I like it. I feel like it's gonna be good. The only problem is now I have 2 sweater quantities that are kind of that color, because I didn't love the Madeline Tosh that I got. So it's probably gonna marinate for a while, but I think I'm hoping, I want to do a swatch soon so that I can see how this does, because it's really supposed to change significantly when it's washed, because it's got all the spinning oil and then probably dirt and stuff in it. So I don't know when I'm gonna get to this, but I just wanted to show it off, because I was like, it's just interesting to buy. It's different, right? Like, it's different from going to a yarn store and buying it by the skein. This feels a little bit closer to like to the sheep. I don't know if it actually is all that much. And again, like, I'm trying to be better about being okay with like rustic wools, because like I guess I have sort of sensitive skin. Like, I have my Winter Soft sweater is knit out of Cascade Eco, and it's a little itchy. Like, it's a little itchy, and it's a tight sweater, so it's, you know, on my skin hardcore. But yeah, so I'm wanting to try it. And so this was kind of like a reasonably inexpensive way to try it. Try some different wools. So we'll see. Hopefully I'll have a swatch to show you at some point, to see how this knits up and then what it looks like after it's been washed. I really hope it's gonna like be an awesome yarn, because if it is, then like I've got sweater yarn at reasonable prices. Because again, one of the things, I messaged somebody about the size inclusive stuff, and I was like, yeah, I have a really hard time being sympathetic when I hear straight sized ladies that are like talking about knitting like a boxy sweater or something, and they're like, it's like 400 stitches, and I'm like, bitch, you know, like all my sweaters are 400 stitches, and they take a long time to knit. They take twice as much yarn, which costs twice as much money. And that's what brought me, I mean, well, that's not exactly what brought me to knitting, but that's supposed to be the point of it, you know, that like I can make clothes that fit me. I can make clothes the way I want to make clothes, and they will fit me and all of that. But let's not lie and be aware that like you know, knitting a sweater is a big financial investment for me, you know. And especially, and then it takes a long time to get to them. You can only knit so many at a time. You know, it takes me, I won't even say twice as long, because who knows, like, you know, it's a big commitment to do that. And I hope straight size people recognize like that's a privilege. Like, you have a privilege of not having to spend as much money, not having to spend as much time. Excuse me, I'm a little stuffed up, so my snottiness may come out. Of snot of the nose, not the snot of the personality. But yeah, so like I'm excited to find ways to deal with that, because again, like, never gonna be skinny, not interested in dieting, not trying to like change my situation, but I do feel like I have a right to basically say, quit your bitching, and just recognize that like other people are, you know, the things that you don't think a second thought about, you know, complaining about, like people live with that stuff every day, you know. Some of it's serious and some of it's not, you know. I feel weird. I feel a little weird, especially given all the conversations about racism. Like, I do not want anyone to think that this is more important. It's just different. Like, it's an issue, and it is important in its own way, but it is not as important, I don't think, as helping people of color have more access to power and resources and things like that. That's my personal belief. If you're not on the same boat, that's fine, but we might not be friends. So, yeah, so that's kind of all of that stuff. Yeah, I don't have a lot to show today, unfortunately. So yeah, those are my most exciting additions to Stash-ish. It's not really Stash, obviously, but yeah, those are all super fun things that I've had lately. And the other thing I wanted to talk about was that I've started a little knitting group. And so I actually just got back. It was our first time meeting. My day job is that I'm the Main Street coordinator for the town that we live in, which means I try to help promote businesses in the downtown district and plan events downtown, and, you know, kind of try to raise awareness in the community of revitalization activities. And so I do a lot of that in my day job. Some of it I'm good at, some of it I'm not, some of it I enjoy, some of it I don't. But one thing I've wanted to do is have a knitting group meet in our little coffee shop that opened in the last couple of years downtown. And similar to this podcast, I think it's something about, you know, I don't know if it's the beginning of the year, some sort of motivation, whatever. I finally got around to doing it. And it's not like it took much. It was truly just putting out invites on Nextdoor and Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that. But I'm really glad to have done it, because we had a great turnout. Like, we had, I think, like 7 ladies. Some of them I knew from various things. We had 2 ladies that have never knit before, like never. Like, someone was asking, how long have you been knitting, to like the group, and the lady was like, what time is it? So I had a chance to kind of teach them a little bit, and so hopefully they'll, you know, work on it. We're going to meet every other Sunday at the coffee shop on Sundays from 1 to 3, and yeah, it was just really fun to like have a conversation with people and have it be in my backyard essentially. Like I've been going to a knitting group in Apex, which is like 30 minutes away from me. So it's really easy to get derailed and like come home from work and be like, ugh, I don't want to go. And also it was an established group, and like I'm being introverted. Sometimes like I know them enough now to go without feeling weird, but like I'm not always great at starting conversation. And I think there's something different about the fact that like I'm starting this group. So like I feel responsible for it, and because it's new and everyone's new to it, like it's, you know, a little bit easier to say like, hey, what's your name? Tell me your story, whatever. Than it is to walk into an established group and be like, you all know my name now and I don't know anyone's names. Like I've been going to that group for probably 6 months and I'm like, I know like 4 people's names. So that's my new pet project, and I was just really excited. There were a couple indie dyers, Handmade by Zan and Debbie Duck Yarns. They're on Instagram. I think it's Debbie at Debbie Duck Yarns and at Handmade by Zan, Zan. Check out their stuff. Handmade by Zan knit some of that, or excuse me, dyed that blue and white and orange and green yarn that I showed on the last podcast. Her stuff's beautiful. I haven't had a chance to look at Debbie Duck's yarns much, but she was showing off these really cool pieces that were machine knit by someone that she works with her yarn and things like that. And it's so interesting to like meet people, you know, from the very beginning stages, you know, where it's like, what's a knit stitch, up to, you know, like this is my business and I make money doing this, and, you know, things like that, and all the way in between. So, yeah, it was really fun to like sit there and knit and, you know, help people get started, and, and everybody there, like it was so interesting because, you know, the 2 ladies that came and learn were like, I'm basically just trying to meet people. And I was like, I'm here for that, you know, because it's hard. Like both of them were older retired ladies, and, you know, one was relatively new to North Carolina, another, you know, just lives kind of in a rural part of the state and doesn't have access to many of those groups, you know. And they were like, we just want to meet people. And I'm like, I get it. That's why I started it. You know, like my husband and I don't have kids and we don't go to church, and in our community, like those are the 2 main ways that people make friends, you know, as adults. So it was just nice as an opportunity to meet people. And it's funny, you know, like I don't mind teaching people to knit. Like I'm not amazing at teaching people to knit, but I can do it, you know. And I know a lot of places, you know, like the local yarn stores have classes for that, and I think it's great. Please support them, you know, go pay for someone to teach you the very basics. Like I can teach, but I would always recommend you take a class, whether it's online or at a local yarn store. But I get that like sometimes those are barriers to entry in any hobby, right? Like those initial things, like you don't know what you don't know until you get into it. So I'm happy to make that entry smoother. I want it to be accessible to everybody. I wouldn't say that I have some mission to like, I mean, I want there to be more knitters. Like I want there to be more knitters so that people aren't like, oh, how quaint, you knit, you know, like I want to be like, this is a guerrilla skill that like, when the apocalypse comes, like you're gonna be screwed. So, I mean, I'll be screwed too because of how long it takes me to knit a sweater, but still, we could probably knock some stuff out while running from zombies. So yeah, like it's always funny because I don't feel like a lot's going on. Like I said, I don't feel like I have a ton to show you guys, but I'm really enjoying having the conversation, and it's made me more excited to do the podcast again. I think it's one of those things like when you get a little, you know, spend a couple weeks, it's easy to be like, well, it's so much work and it's not fun. I was having a conversation with someone about how like this is something that is both energy giving and energy taking, because it's energy giving because I'm excited to talk about stuff that normally I would not know who to talk to. You know, like if I knew someone was a knitter, but even then you're like, do you want to listen to me go on for like 20 minutes about all the things I've been working on? Or are you going to be bored too? Versus like, you know, I'm going to talk however long about whatever I want, and you can tune in, you can tune out. Like, I'm not going to apologize for any of the things I say, you know, when I go on rants and stuff like that, because all of this is optional. The ride exits at your will. But it's nice to have an opportunity to say all these things and share what I'm thinking about. But then there's also the burden of like, you know, editing and promoting and all that stuff. So I don't know that I'm ever going to care that much about editing or promoting, because I think if I care about having an audience, this is not going to be fun. Like, I hope I do. I think I have like 15 subscribers. Hey guys. But if I never have more than that, like, I want to be okay with it, because one thing I have to be careful of in Instagram and all that is not getting like too, like comparative. You know, like you see people and they have such a far reach and they make friends, and there's the in crowd of the knitting group or knitting world and all that stuff, and like it's very easy to let that stuff stain your experience in an unfortunate way. And like I'm only doing this for fun. Like, this is supposed to be fun and a creative outlet, and if it's not fun, it's not gonna fucking happen anymore. So sorry for all of the swearing. Not every episode will be full of swearing, because not every episode will be full of rants. So, but some rants will deserve a lot of swearing, and so there will be a lot of swearing. But again, I don't care to apologize for what's in this, and so I'm trying to remind myself very much, like, this is about me being me and learning to be me and being the person I want to be, and not having to say I'm sorry for noises in the background and, you know, stuff like that. So that's what it is. What's coming up? Like I said, I'm going to work on the cowl probably after I get my sweater done. Hopefully next time I do this, I'll have the finished sweater to show you guys. I've still got my B Street pullover that's waiting to be finished. I've got some shawls. I'm not sure after the cowl what else I'm going to work on, but like I said, I'm trying really hard to finish some things, so it's not so much like everything's everywhere, but we'll see. It is prime knitting season, you know, time to snuggle up with my dogs and on the couch and watch TV with my husband and knit, and I'm here for that. I'm here for it. You know, it's very funny because these days, you know, when you grow up in Michigan, like, once Christmas is over, oof, the next 3 to 4 months is rough, because it's just constantly gray and it's snowy and it's gross out. And down here in North Carolina, like, that doesn't happen as much, and you get a lot more like a 60-degree day is not an uncommon thing in the middle of January, but it's still gray and people still want to hibernate and things like that. So given that this coincides with like my quiet time at work, I really enjoy just kind of like hibernating through the months. But obviously there's lots of things going on doing the little knitting group, knitting social, whatever you want to call it. So yeah, I feel like I've got a lot of good things going on, and hopefully I'll be back in a couple of weeks to talk some more and show you some things. And I think that's it. So this is a real shorter one, which is cool. And thank you again for watching. If you want to find me on Instagram and Ravelry, Bittersweet Betty NC on Instagram, Bittersweet Betty on Ravelry. And I'll be back in a few weeks. Thanks, guys. See ya.